I cried out to the Lord, and the Lord heard me. Evening and morning and midday I will set out in detail. I will report, and I will give ear to my voice. Cast your care upon the Lord, and we will continually sustain you. He will never give a surging wave to the righteous one. Well, if you're joining us in reading through this 6-month reading plan through the book of Psalms, today's reading is Psalm 55, and I encourage you to read that psalm. Now, I've chosen the Septuagint version of this psalm for today's devotion because it is a much more accurate translation than any of our common English translations. And because of this, I need to explain a little bit about the Septuagint. In 220 BC in Alexandria, Egypt, it became very apparent that most Jews could not understand Hebrew, but rather understood Greek. And the Septuagint was a translation that was made from the Hebrew to the Greek. It was the Septuagint that was a translation that was used during Jesus' time, and most of the Old Testament references in our English New Testament are quoted from the Septuagint. David is relating some of the struggles that he has experienced with those who are evil or those who desire to see some disaster come upon him. He's expressing to God his innermost feelings. Notice in verse 18, verse 17 in our English Bibles, that he says that he sets out details that have occurred in the evening, morning, and midday. Now this gives us a very interesting insight into the hours of prayer that David practiced. In the early church, as well as in Judaism during that time, prayer was offered either 5 or 6 times per day. It began with the evening prayer at 6 p.m., possibly another prayer at 9 or midnight, and then again at 6 a.m., possibly 9 a.m., possibly 3 a.m., and then it would end again at 6 p.m. and start again. And there was a concentrated effort and to spend time throughout the day speaking with God. Well, today in our modern Christian walk, we barely have enough time for a morning devotion and an evening devotion. As a matter of fact, many people only do one or the other, and a significant of people do neither. Notice that David lays out in detail that which is occurring in his life. He leaves nothing undone. He tells God everything that is occurring, and why shouldn't he do that 3 times a day? A very practical answer is that you might forget what was happening if you did things in a longer period of time. Well, we need to spend some time talking with God and less time ministering to our cell phones, TVs, and computers. Our focus should be on God's guidance in our lives, not what Google tells us in our searches. That's not to say that the computers we use are wrong or that we shouldn't use them. But we should recognize who gives us life and who guides our lives and spend time laying out in detail what is happening to us and to him. And if you would like a PDF copy of this entire reading plan, please send an email to phineasjacobus@runningtohim.net.